Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Thank you for your service. The Air Force has reported a shortage of approximately 2,000 pilots, including a shortage of about 950 fighter pilots, which is essentially unchanged since last year. Much of the training occurs in Texas, from Joint Base San Antonio, Randolph, and at Shepherd Air Force Base. And I know they're working hard every day to resolve the issue. Would you please update the committee on current efforts to address this critical problem?
Senator Cruz, thank you for that question, and absolutely the Air Force is laser focused on that problem. The update I would offer is we've narrowed the very focused study and analysis on root cause and of the situation and how to fix it. We've narrowed it down to 3 main lines of effort. 1, requirements. What are the total requirements for the pilot force from squadron all the way up to staffs? 2, production. Do we have the production that we need in terms of producing pilots through the entire ecosystem? So initial training and graduate level training all the way through to a mission-ready pilot. And then 3, retention. We have the most control over the requirements in terms of influencing the decisions on that. Very much fiscally informed control over production, but we have figured out that production is really the main effort. We've got to set the production. Right now, our current target is 1,400 pilots per year, total force. We've got to set it there and leave it there. That's part of the problem. The root cause of where we find ourselves in the position we're in now is we've changed the production over the last 10 to 12 years up and down, mostly tending downward. And then retention, we've got a number of programs that are underway to influence retention and make our airmen want to stay and do this job. And it's not just aviation bonuses, if you will. It's things like we have a talent management system that we call, which essentially is a way to give the member a bigger choice in their assignment selection or a voice in where they would like to go for their next assignment, all the way through to things where they can volunteer for short or long tours overseas, get down. We've cut over half of our 365-day tours overseas down to 6 months tours to, again, make that more enticing for them to want to stay and affect their quality of service as well as their quality of life for their families. A number of efforts there. And also ways for other assignment options, second assignment in place, policy changes to allow them to have more stability for their families, particularly for someone who has a professional spouse or very concerned about the quality of education of that their children are getting with where they are.
So of the different steps you mentioned, what are you saying is having the most positive impact on retention?
Right now, the most positive impact that we're seeing is the things that are not necessarily monetarily related. It's these options for choice in how they would like to serve their country. We're also looking at a 4 to 6 month study that we're about to undertake with regard to a pilot-only or aviation-only technical track to see how that would actually pan out for the Air Force, and if we can achieve that, the proper outcome is a win-win for the service as well as for the members.
And what else is needed from Congress in terms of authorities or otherwise to help address this problem?
Senator Cruz, right now I don't think we've gotten tremendous support from Congress up to this point, so we appreciate that greatly. The effort that we just finished at the direction of the Secretary of the Air Force, which was to get our fighter pilot crisis to a 95% manning level and then total pilot requirement up to 95% by the end of fiscal 23 is the goal she gave us. We're pursuing that quite heavily. So as we work our way through the options that we're going to offer to our senior leadership, we may come to Congress for some assistance in policy changes and or perhaps some legislative relief if we find an alternative way perhaps to do monetary pay versus aviation bonuses versus another way. And we're looking at our coalition partners that have air forces like ours that are as capable and advanced as ours, as well as our joint partners for how they handle those difficult challenges for those highly needed mission areas.
Thank you. General Bunch, let me shift topics. In the department's budget request, it included $2.3 billion for the development of the B-21 bomber. In fiscal year 18, it was $2 billion. Could you describe to this subcommittee what's planned to be done with that $2.3 billion request?
So, sir, I won't go into a lot of detail given the nature of the work that we're doing there. What I will say is we're continuing the engineering, manufacturing, development. We're continuing some of those risk reduction areas. What we're also doing is we've finished preliminary design review. We're on our way to critical design review. We've manned up a good portion of what we need to do. We're making everything ready to begin our test program in the future. And we've delivered the first set of software for that platform, and we're going through that. and then we're getting set up for the next set of software to come in. We're making good progress. I'm comfortable today with where we're at and the progress that Northrop Grumman is making on the program.
And one final question, shifting to the F-35. Are you concerned about the cost of F-35 sustainment? And if so, what efforts is the Air Force making to deal with that? And what do you see of the consequences if that cost is not reduced?
So, sir, we are worried about the cost. The production costs are coming down along the lines that we've predicted from the program office, that the production costs are coming down, the procurement costs of the assets. The sustainment costs have been higher than what we would like. We're working with the program office to look at what are the high-time drivers of cost, what are the areas that we can attack, how can we work with Lockheed Martin, can we stand up our depots faster, what do we do to get more people involved in the production of parts, how do we make that work? All of those are efforts that are ongoing. We have the program office has a room where they've got multiple charts to show what activities they're trying to do. We have small groups that have been stood up with all the services and the acquisition executives of the services and Ms. Lord's staff that we're working on those and coming up with ideas. So we have a full court press on that area. We do need to drive those costs down. We need to get that to the point that it is not just cost effective to buy, it's got to be cost effective to operate and maintain as well, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.